Welcome to the Innovation Squadcast. If you are looking for a podcast about instructional strategies enhanced by technology, you came to the right place. In our conversations, we will talk with tech experts, share ideas and strategies to help you build your toolbox with tools that you can use in your class immediately.
Welcome to the Innovation Squadcast podcast. Today we are talking Schoology end of year kind of wrap up. And as the school year is coming to an end, we just wanted to share some tips and some reminders for your courses. In this episode, we will discuss how to find archive courses, give some tips and organization, and how to save your course to your resources page. So I am Jimmy Kate, joined by
Phil Sheridan,
Dr. Schoology, as we call them. And so we're definitely going to get into some, end of the year stuff. There's not a lot here, but there's a few things that, teachers can do to kind of get themselves ready. And the first thing is actually going to be this week's tech tip of the week, and that's how to save your course to your resources. So here you go. All right, so we're going to look at how to save our course at the end to our resources. And we're actually going to start in resources. So once you're in resources, you have your home collection and you can send assignments and folders here, or you can add a collection. If you hit the little box next to the arrow, you can add a collection. In this case, I added a 22-23 practice collection so that I can save my course into that collection. So let's head back to our course. So hit courses. I'm going to go to my practice course here, and we're going to look at saving that course. Now I can grab individual assignments, individual pages, assessments, or folders. However, I organize my class, and I can click the settings wheel on the right, and I can save those to resources. Or you have the option, which is under next to options and next to add materials under options, to be able to save the entire course to our resources. So once you click that, then you would pick the collection that you want to send it to, in this case 22-23, and then I would hit the submit button and send that course over into my resources. So what does that look like? So if I go to my resources and I hit the 22-23 practice collection, you can see now that it took that whole course and created a folder inside of that collection, so that when I open up that folder, I now have the individual folders that came inside of that course. And I can then hit the settings wheel on the right-hand side, and I can add those to my course. I also have the option of sending the entire folder to a course as well. All right. Thanks for that tech tip. And, you can find the video to that tech tip if you're listening, going to show notes in the Schoology. Our show notes are found in Schoology podcast section. They're found in the description for your YouTube video, or in any of the podcasting descriptions. You can find the link to the show notes there, or just email your ILC and we can send you the show notes as well.
Sure.
So, one of the first things I think that teachers were worrying about are where their course is going to go from this year. What can they do with those courses? How can they find those courses next year?
Yeah. So everything's done automated when it comes to courses, rosters and course names and all that through PowerSchool. So when your course is done for the school year, when it comes to the end, it's going to go into an automatic archived status. And it's easy to find. You just go to your courses, my courses, and then there's an archive tab. And that's where all your stuff will be. So, throughout the next many years that we're using this, we can always refer back to and find stuff in the archive section. So, so there is that. But, we want to talk about other ways to help, make that stuff more readily accessible than having to always go back into the archive and look for your old stuff.
That's a last ditch effort. That's, if we forgot to do something on these other ways. So some of these other tips coming up, or how can we, avoid having to go back into our archive course list?
So probably like the first thing, whenever you're looking at, reusing all the work that you did this year, we want teachers to feel like, there's a little bit of return on investment.
Sure.
What you build this year, the great stuff that you did with it, we want teachers to be able to reuse it next year, polish it up even further than what they have, and all that stuff. So it all boils down to really just making it organized.
Yeah. Your Schoology course organization.
Yeah. You don't want to, you want to take a minute, look at how you have it organized, and think about next year. Is this repeatable? Is this a repeatable format?
What worked? What didn't?
Where you can, organize it so that it's easy to get to in the years to come. So using your folders and looking at the naming of stuff that you did and just kind of doing a little bit of housekeeping on some of that stuff is a good practice.
Sure. Assignments that you maybe didn't have in a folder, maybe it's a good idea to move them into a folder. It's a little, easier to find, what you're looking for, based off of, having it in a folder, especially once you save it to your resources. So kind of cleaning up some of those loose assignments and things that you posted in there.
Yeah. And for a lot of people, everyone's getting used to Google or Schoology this year. So there may be some things now that you started off a little rough, a little not so organized, and came up with and adopted a strategy. Or you can again.
And you might want to also remove some things that, didn't go well, not going to use it again. Put it in there, didn't work out like I wanted, not going to use it. Let's go ahead and get rid of it so we don't bring it over to the next course.
Yeah. And you want to, when it comes to getting rid of stuff, you want to, you definitely want to wait till you're done with all the grading and everything like that for the school year before you do that. If you want to do it before the expiration of a grading term,
correct.
Then move it into a folder called, old archived stuff, whatever,
to be deleted.
Yeah. To be deleted or something. Don't delete it until you're all done with the course. But sure.
And then I was also thinking about another way to organize is that we use still a lot of our Google stuff. And I think another thing that would really help is to kind of mirror that Google Drive organization with that Schoology folder organization, so you can find those attachments later on.
Yeah, we use Google stuff all over the place. And it's an end of year practice, but it's also something we'll talk about for beginning of the year setup too. Is having your Google Drive resources that you intend to use organized in a similar fashion to how you're organized in your Schoology stuff. So it just kind of makes sense. Now, spoiler alert for next year, one of the things we'll talk about is, those folders that you intend to have stuff in for kids to use, share that entire folder so that anyone with the link can open it, and that really clears up a lot of headaches where throughout the year you're giving kids, assignments or whatever you're sharing with them through Schoology that's in your Drive. You don't have to worry about individually adjusting sharing permissions all the time.
Correct.
Create folders that are shared with your kids that will contain the stuff they're using in class.
Exactly. And, so that's definitely a really good tip as far as, get that Google organization to mirror it. And then another place that we have to put our information is going to be in our resources inside of Schoology. And I think another good organization is going to be the collections. I think, create those collections to organize it. What kind of tips and tricks would you give for that kind of collection organization?
Yeah, for some people, they may not have spent a lot of time this year in their resources because you're kind of in it and you're just doing the day-to-day of, giving assignments and working within your course folders. But when you get up into your personal section of your resources, which is on the left-hand side, moving over to the right shows all your collections. So if you have a course, let's say you teach science, and you want to perhaps maybe say, I'm going to subdivide my science collection into folders for the units, or however your progression is throughout that course, you may want to set up folders for that. Again, all of it's just thinking long term, making it something that's easy to access now, in the future, moving forward. But one more jump back to Google Drive.
Sure.
One thing to also keep in mind is that if you're using Schoology, you're creating Schoology assignments, and you're formatting them with Google, the Google Drive assignments button.
Correct. Making the copy for each kid.
Which makes a copy for each kid. Remember that when you do that, that assignment becomes a folder in your Google Drive. So you do have a copy of all your student work saved in your Google Drive. You don't want to delete that folder. We've seen that a lot with Google Classroom, where teachers would go in, what's this folder? I don't need this. And they delete it. Well, that's the folder that Google Classroom was using to find and refer to, and you just kind of broke it. So don't go delete. We wouldn't suggest you delete any of that stuff, because it disassociates the Schoology work from where it's housed and stored in Google Drive. So. Yeah.
And then when they, use that Google Drive assignments, when they bring these resources over to next year, one of the things that teachers are going to have to be, kind of mindful of, they are going to have to add that attachment in, because, when you're making a copy for each kid in that course, Google, they're making a copy for that kid. And then,
Mhm.
so, have new kids, new students, it needs to just make a new copy. So you'll look at your due dates, and which is a good thing, be able to check all that inside those new assignments, which is good.
That is definitely something that, it would be great.
Yes.
If that wasn't necessary to do, but it's just not the way it's going to be able to work, the way that, a file has to be shared through Google. But because
you're making a copy, right? Any of your stuff in your description window, links, resources, things like that, that's going to come.
That's copied, right? Yeah. But that's why it's so important that when you have resources in Schoology that connect to Google Drive stuff,
right?
That you set up an organizational structure that kind of makes sense,
mirrors it, and makes it easy to find. Mm-hmm. Perfect. So. So the last thing really is now the idea of saving the courses, and we had the tech tip of the week, kind of showing how to save the courses, but, let's go, how some other ways they don't have, you can a couple different options, basically what I'm saying, of how you want to save your materials, from your course into your resources. So what do you kind of recommend there?
Yeah. I mean, if you kind of start from a top, you could save the whole course,
right?
I mean, that's the easiest thing to do, but I mean, that might not be what you want to do, because you might have, like we just talked about a minute ago, you may have stuff in there that you're like, I was learning Schoology.
Sure.
I don't need to keep that. So, if you save the whole course to your resources, then you're going to have all of it, and you're going to maybe have to clean it up later.
Right.
But then you can go down into you can save, instead of the whole course, you go down into the folder level.
Right.
And right next to any of your folders, there's a little icon that says save
settings wheel. Hit your settings wheel, and then that'll give you the option to save to your resources.
And below that, there is the assignment level.
Yep.
All the little individual components. If you wanted to save an individual component, it's the same thing.
Yep.
Go to your little setting, and then you can move that up there. So it really just kind of depends on what you want to save, and how you want to move it up there to your resources for future use.
Sure, because you could make your resources collection by unit if you really wanted to, and just move units in there and organize it that way. You can do it by course, because it will, like in the tech tip, it'll take the whole course and bring that over as one big folder that's then divided out. And then being able to access those resources, and then it's basically 2 clicks, settings wheel, and then add to course and send it where you need it to go next year, which is going to be, I think, a really fun, nice feature for teachers. So
we just want, as we started it out, it's a lot of work to learn a platform like this, or any learning management system platform, and that time spent in learning it and creating that stuff, we want that to come back.
Sure.
On the other end is time savings. So next year, people are going to have a lot of stuff, hopefully, that they created this year.
Yep.
A little less to have to create next year. More time to do some other things, as far as, creating resources and things for your students. So over time, they'll have a really big buildup of stuff that they can use with their kids for learning and everything.
Right. Any other tips and tricks you can think of as far as cleaning up the courses?
I think for the end of the year, keeping it simple is just being aware of how to move stuff up, save it, and organize it, and be ready for next year.
And as always, if you have any questions, reach out to your ILC, send us an email. We'll be more than happy to jump on the Google Meet. We'll be more than happy to walk you through, saving courses, folders, all that good stuff. And, listening to the podcast, remember, every 2 podcasts, you get a chance to get some PD credit. So check out the Squadcast PD. That's also a link into Unified Talent in the show notes. And then again, you can find the podcast in the podcasting folder in your Schoology connection. I'll put the code up real quick on the YouTube screen. So if you want to check out the code in the YouTube screen. And then you can find this podcast through Spotify, through Apple Podcasts, or pretty much anywhere that you find podcasts. Yeah. So we appreciate everybody listening. We appreciate everybody's hard work this year with Schoology, and hopefully, get a lot of that work that they put into it is, again, going to be able to reuse next year, which I think is a huge bonus for Schoology, and definitely one of the pluses. And we really appreciate everybody's hard work out there. And again, reach out with any questions, concerns. Thanks for being here, and we'll talk next time. Bye.